ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we are almost at the end of Brahma Samhita. So we have last two verses remaining. So we'll continue our study of Brahma Samhita. So last week or a couple of weeks we started learning about Lord Krishna's instruction in the five shlokas. We learned about a couple of them, how Krishna is explaining that even in this material world, bhakti or attaining love for Krishna, loving devotional service is the highest goal of any jiva. And in last verse, we saw that attaining love for Krishna is also in progression, and we always starts with sadhana bhakti. And when we perfect our sadhana bhakti, then eventually love for Krishna is aroused in our heart. So now in this verse, he further explains how it is in proportion how we can perform bhakti or attain loving devotional service even while in this material world. Not that generally people, we think that we go to Golok Vrindavan for performing bhakti only, but even while in this material world, how one can attain loving devotional service to Krishna. So here Krishna is instructing Brahmaji, dharmān anyān parityajya मामेकं भज विश्वसन् yādṛśī śraddhā siddhir bhavati tādṛśī kurvan nirantaraṁ karma loko anuvartate tenaiva karmaṇā dhyāyan māṁ parāṁ bhaktim icchati. We'll read the translation and then go back to shloka again. So, abandoning all meritorious performances, serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. By meditating on me, by means of those deeds, one will obtain devotion characterized by love in the shape of the supreme service. So, quite a few instructions here, and when I was reading this, I see lots of related verses from Bhagavad Gita, which Lord Krishna gives instructions to Arjuna, very similar lines. So, the first instruction or first couple of lines, it says, dharmān anyān parityajya māmekam bhaja viśvasan. So if you remember from Bhagavad Gita, at the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the similar thing. Sarva dharmān parityajya māmekam sharanam vraja. So dharmān anyān, but here he says anyān, different, other dharma. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, he says sarva dharmān, because he has described all the material dharmas. So anyān, what are anya dharma, which he says that to parityajya, give up all those anya dharma and just accept one thing, that was māmekam bhaja viśvasan, only worship me, bhaja, bhajadatu, bhaja sevayan. So bhaja is offering loving service. It's a service. It's not ideal, just worship or something that is you do just mentally. It is activity. And viśvasan, with all the viśvas, all the faith, all the full faith. So dharmān anyān. So one may think, what are these other dharmas Krishna is talking about? So in general, all the dharmas are, dharma is activity that one has to perform, that is given in the Vedic literature, or it is our intrinsic inseparable nature, some quality that cannot be separated from a jiva. And Prabhupada gives many times an example that dharma of sugar is sweetness. So sugar without sweetness cannot be identified as sugar, because that is an inseparable quality of sugar. In the same manner, for a living entity, the inseparable quality is offering service. Every living entity is offering service. So, but the highest spiritual dharma, savai pumsam paro dharmo, yato bhaktir adhokshache. At the highest state, in the most pure form, that service is to offer loving devotional service to Krishna. Ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati, which is ahetuki, without any hetu, without any material gain, without accepting anything, without expecting anything also. And ahetuki apratihata, without any break, continuous. And yayatma suprasidati, that gives full bliss to the heart. But while we are in this material world, there are also other material dharmas that we are performing. And that's what uh, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates here as meritorious performances. So dharma, he translates here as meritorious performances, where everybody is working or engaged in some activity so that they can grow in some or other way in material gain. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha are four purusharthas, or the achievements that are generally considered from Vedic literature, which are attained. So general activities that are done are basically, somebody may be engaged in activities to gain some material enjoyment, for sense enjoyment. He's working hard, that is karma. Or somebody without any expectation working, that is generally we call as karma yoga. Or somebody who tries to understand the knowledge, how everything is working, where did I come from, all this inquisitiveness. So that person is working in jnana. Or somebody who is working on meditation or yoga practice or ashtanga yoga to get liberated from all these activities. So all these different activities are part of dharma in different, some or the other way. Even in varnashrama dharma, a Brahman is engaged in some activities, particularly yajna, dana, tapa, all these or shatkarma nipuna vipno. So what are those? Pathan, Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. So all these activities a Brahman is engaged. A Kshatriya is engaged in protecting and controlling all his subjects. Or Vaishya is engaged in producing or protecting cows. Or in some trading and other activities. And Shudra are engaged in serving others. In the same manner, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi, they are all engaged in some kind of material activities. But all these activities, what Krishna is saying, dharmān anyān, they fall in the anya dharma. So Krishna says that they can be given up. Dharmān anyān parityajya. But one thing that one should never give up is māṁ ekaṁ bhaja viśvasan. That is the activity Krishna is recommending that one should engage, irrespective of other giving up other activities. And then further he says, yādṛśī śraddhā siddhir bhavati tādṛśī. So this is something similar what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also. Ye yatha māṁ prapadyante tāṁ tathaiva bhajāmyaham. So yādṛśī, just as or in the proportion, whoever has śraddhā, faith, in the degree in which one has faith in Krishna, siddhir bhavati tādṛśī. He gets success in the self-realization or in his bhakti to that proportion, tādṛśī, in that same manner, whichever type of śraddhā he has. So without faith, we cannot even do anything. So śraddhā or faith is very, very important. And śraddhā is, as defined, basically is staunch faith that Krishna will protect me. Krishna is always going to be there, and I only have one duty, or I only have one goal by performing all duties to offer loving devotional service to him. And it is one of the very basic or the foundational principles of attaining bhakti eventually. As Srila Rupa Goswami also mentions in the Bhakti Rasamrita Siddhu, Adav Shraddha. So everything starts with Shraddha. Without Shraddha or without faith, we cannot even live even in this material world. So Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrutti, all these different stages he gave. And eventually when Anartha Nivrutti happens, or when one is purified, then the next stages, one develops Nishtha or determination to offer loving devotional service to Krishna. And then he develops taste, ruchi, and one is attached to Krishna's service by asakti, and then bhava is developed. And ultimately, after all going through all these processes, one can develop love for Krishna. And that is the ultimate goal for a living entity. That is the perfection of living entities' activities, or that is the highest success one can attain for uh, in his living life. So, and for everything, for removing all the contamination what we have in this material world, we have to go through these processes, and we have to start with Shraddha. So further he says, kurvan nirantaraṁ karma lokoyam anuvartate. But while living in this material world, one has to engage in some or the other kind of material activities. One is always and everybody is looking for some activity. One cannot sit idle. That's what here it is said, right? People of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. Kurvan nirantaraṁ. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one cannot even uh, live or maintain his body without performing some activity. So everybody, as long as they are living in this material world, have to perform some kind of activity. And these activities, as it is written in the purport, they are divided by three different types of activities. One is activity performed for the body. The other one is activity performed for the mind. And the third one is activity performed for or in relationship with the other entities or in this world, or social activities. So activities performed for body are generally eating, sleeping, walking, resting, sleeping, or maintaining this body, cleansing this body, etc. These are all bodily activities that are described. Activities for mind are thinking or remembering something, recollecting, or trying to retain some impression in the body, or becoming aware of something. That awareness is also mental activity. Or feelings, all our emotions or feelings are also mental activities. Feeling pain and pleasure are mental activities. And then there are some social activities are described, where we interact with other living entities or the whole world. Basically, as long as we are in this material world, we are interacting with others. So these activities can be like having friends, friendship, or maintaining some social group, or nationalism is one of the activities, or even marrying is social activity. Marriage, as we considered according to Vedic culture, is not just a union of two persons, but it is, in our culture, it is union of two families. The whole families come together and it's a celebration. So that is also a social activity. Or doing some social work, like building hospitals or opening schools or giving some charities to persons or groups. so that they can be helped. So all these are social activities. So this way, everybody, some or the other, is always engaged in some kind of activity. And all these activities fall under the section called karma kanda. So when one is performing these activities for some kind of sense gratification, or he wants to attain some enjoyment for himself, they are identified as karma kanda. But when these activities are engaged for getting out of this material world, or eventually to develop bhakti for Krishna, so that bhakti is called as karma mishra bhakti or jnana mishra bhakti, which is kind of little bit subordinate to the prema bhakti, but that is the beginning of bhakti. And eventually, when one does not want anything in return, and his ultimate goal is to only satisfy Krishna's desire, but at the same time, he is performing all these worldly duties, that is prema bhakti. And that's what he mentions in the last part here. tenaiva karmaṇā dhyāyan mam parāṁ bhaktim icchati. So, kurvan nirantaraṁ karma lokoyam anuvartate, because there is a tendency, everybody is working, everybody is trying to find some work or some activity when living in this material world. But ten eva karmana dhyāyan. But when that same activity is somehow or other dovetailed in Krishna's service, and that way always meditating on him, dhyāyan mam. So always meditate on me. Then what happens? Parāṁ bhaktim icchati. He attains the parāṁ, or the supreme bhakti, or the highest bhakti, that is love for Krishna. And that's what he is explaining. Even while living in this material world, when you are engaged in so-called worldly activities, but if you are performing those activities while and always thinking of me and offering the results to me, or for performing these activities only for my satisfaction, then you will attain Param Bhakti. And that is the highest goal. And this instruction he is giving to Brahmaji, which is very same he gives to Arjuna also. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha, he says in the 8th chapter. Said Tasmat, therefore, he said, before that he says that yam vyomvapi swaram bhava tajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever one thinks at the time of giving up this body, that form he will attain for sure. And antakale cha mameva, if somebody thinks of me, he will attain me. But therefore, Krishna, he says, Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu, all the time, what do? Mam anusmara. Think of me, and then yuddhacha. Because Arjuna's duty as a kshatriya, and particularly when he is standing on the battlefield, his duty at that moment from his materialistic role as a kshatriya is to fight in the war. So Krishna never says you give up all the material duties, but he says, Mam anusmara yuddhacha, always think of me. And then perform your material duty. So your activity you do as an offering to me. Mame vaishasya yuktoyama. What is tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yuddhacha. I'm forgetting the line. But your mind and intelligence also engage in me, and in that way you will come to me. And that same instruction he is giving to Brahmaji. Now, at that time, Arjuna was on the battlefield, so he's asking him to fight. Why is he giving here to Brahmaji that do your material duty, and then while performing that duty, dhyāyan mam, meditate on me? Because Brahmaji, he took the form of Brahma because he had a desire for creation. That's why he was given that form. He is cherished that desire for creation. So Krishna is not saying him that you do not do creation or you do not perform your activity here, but he's saying while you are engaged or in your cherished desire of creation, at the same time, you perform that activity of creation while meditating on me. Dhyayan mam. So always meditate on me while performing, even if you are material duty. And that way, when you are engaged in your material activity, you will attain parāṁ bhakti, the ultimate highest devotional service, that is a prema bhakti, you will definitely attain. One will attain. So this is the final instruction that he gives here. And in the middle, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also quotes the verse from Ishopnishad, that when one is engaged in all material dharma or material activities, but when he knows that even though I am performing these activities and gaining some results, but everything actually belongs to Krishna. And when one works in that attitude, with that mode, that Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, that everything ultimately belongs to Krishna. And that's why he engages everything in Krishna's service. Yat kincha jagatyam jagat, tena tektena bhunjita magrida kasya siddhanam. That he does not desire everything because he knows who the real owner is, and he engages everything in Krishna's service. And so in the end, he says that creative desire practiced by Brahmaji. So this creative desire which Brahmaji had, when he uses conjoining the same with meditation of obeying therein the command of Supreme Lord, then the subsidiary spiritual function, the gauna dharma that Brahmaji has to perform, is also helpful for growth in his spiritual dharma, the disposition for the service to the divinity. So all our gauna or the lower class dharma or material dharma, when we dovetail those in Krishna's service or engage those also in Krishna's service and always meditate on Krishna while performing our material duty, then we are already on the bhakti platform. So that is the sum and substance of this shloka. So multiple instructions here, but ultimately Krishna says that even while performing material duties here, always meditate on him. And if he has to dharmān anyān parityajya, give up all the other dharma, but mam ekaṁ bhaja viśvasan, engage only in his service. So that is the sum and substance of this verse. So I'll stop here. It's 9:25. We do have 5 minutes for some question answer. So any reflections or thoughts?
Very nice, Prabhuji, today's class, and very nourishing.
Thank you, Madhuri.
I don't have any questions, Prabhuji, because everything is cleared.
Okay. Thank you, Madhuri. Actually, when I was reading this, in my mind, I was going through several verses from Bhagavad Gita. They are very parallel to each of couple of lines, actually. Very similar instruction. So, Shankaran Prabhuji, Prajivan Prabhu, any reflections, any corrections?
Hari Hari Jai Jagannath Prabhu. What are you saying, Prabhu? Sorry, I was on a phone call, another phone
Oh,
call.
sorry. Okay. I was just asking if there are any reflections or thoughts you wanted to share.
No, Prabhu, I think this verse, as you precisely, pointed out, is so much parallel to Sarva Dharman Parityajya, very much in those lines. The Lord is concluding towards the end of Brahma Samhita, we are having the similar instruction,
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Okay. Haribol. So if not anything, we will stop early today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to serve. And next week we will do the last verse of Brahma Samhita. That's
Okay, so
complete verse.
there's only one verse left? How
There's
many
only
verses
one
left?
verse left.
One verse left, okay.
Final verse.
Yeah, wonderful. Sure.
Conclude next week.
Really.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Antakunta Vaishnava Bindaki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.